Okay, so a lot of developments, I guess, in this 5070 Ti and 5060 Ti quote-unquote discontinued story. We've got official statements from both ASUS and NVIDIA. Already I know no one listening or watching is going to believe any of these statements, but I have a theory, and I actually ran this theory past some folks who kind of feel like it's plausible that this is how this rumor potentially got started. So anyway, let's just get right into it. This should be a short one. I don't want it to be a long, drawn-out thing. I still feel a lot of what I said about NVIDIA's leadership being anti-consumer and very different direction for the company for them, and they've been blatant about that. They haven't tried to hide any of that, honestly. But we're going to talk about the statements today. We're going to kind of dissect them quickly, and then I'm going to give you my theory about how I think Hardware Unboxed was given this incorrect info. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, a couple of days ago, Hardware Unboxed was given direct information from ASUS. They named ASUS. Remember, Hardware Unboxed is in Australia, and this is, I'm assuming they're ASUS reps from Australia, because talk to HQ, also talk to the US reps, also talk to NVIDIA directly, and nobody can really triangulate exactly who said what or why, but they're basically saying the information is absolutely inaccurate. I don't put this on Hardware Unboxed because I have no doubt a credible channel like Hardware Unboxed, if they heard something as just outlandish as we are going to completely discontinue one of the very few SKUs that is very consumer direct, right? 5070 Ti, although it's more expensive than any 70 tier has been in the past, is still the best option if you're shopping 50 series in terms of performance, VRAM amount, and price. Although price could probably be a good $150 cheaper if we really wanted to push the fact. But the bottom line is it's way more consumer friendly than any tier above it. So I have no doubt that somebody like Hardware Unboxed, anyone on their team, when they hear that would go, wait, what? Are you sure? And vet that information and say, confirm with me right now on record that that is the case. And I have no doubt that that is Hardware Unboxed reported this as accurately as they believed the information they received was. Now, whether or not they reached out to any other AIBs to sort of triangulate that information, or NVIDIA directly to say, hey, is this true? I don't think necessarily happened, but let's face it, I'm guilty of the same thing, and I'm trying to do better when it comes to that sort of thing, which is what I sort of did here, although I guess I should have done it first rather than doing the other video. But there's still so much to talk about here in terms of brand trust and loyalty, because before we get into the meat of this, let's just say if NVIDIA hadn't had such a track record over the last several generations of product being what feels anti-consumer by constantly raising prices, giving between 40 and 50 series mediocre uplift in performance, and then just showing all of their cards in terms of bootlicking and AI push, then maybe consumers would be quick to maybe think, this sounds weird. This doesn't sound like the NVIDIA I know. If you read the comments on any of these videos about this, everyone's saying this sounds exactly like the NVIDIA that I know. So first things first, let's talk about the NVIDIA statement. It's very short, and I wish NVIDIA would be more willing to be transparent on some of this stuff. But their direct quote is, demand for GeForce RTX GPUs is strong and memory supply is constrained. We continue to ship all GeForce SKUs and are working closely with our suppliers to maximize memory availability. I posted that as a pinned comment because they reached out to me and said, hey, would you mind pinning our comment? Of course, I mean, right to reply, right? If we want to believe in right to repair, we have to also believe in right to reply. So I put the pinned comment up there. And if you read the more than 100 replies on just this comment alone, it's funny how many people are dissecting this, because there's a lot of gaps, I think, in this type of, this absolutely was probably prepared by, higher ups in PR, not our contacts, but people way above them, and probably even going through a quick legal vetting. The least words, the better. People took this as, they said they're shipping still. They didn't say they're manufacturing still, because this whole concern was about whether or not they're pausing or stopping manufacturing of these parts. And they didn't say they stopped manufacturing, they said they're still shipping. Now, having been in this job for over 13 years now, I have seen brands use those words interchangeably, shipping and manufacturing meaning the same thing. The problem is there's open to interpretation with this statement. So a lot of people were like, well, of course they're still quote unquote shipping. It can ship 2 a year and they're still manufacturing it. So there's this brand trust issue right now where people are like, NVIDIA is just gonna say whatever they need to say. It's because of the outrage, although I don't think NVIDIA truly cares about the outrage, but anyway, I digress. That gives them legal recourse to say, well, we still made them, right? So availability, the amount they're making, all that sort of stuff. NVIDIA's never been transparent about like units manufactured, units shipped, and all that. It'd be great if we could actually see those figures. I've seen those figures behind the scenes, but it's always been, this is NDA'd, you can't share this information. This is all private, like stockholder type information on units shipped, units manufactured, all that sort of stuff. So it'd be nice. That'd be the piece that could support this statement, is saying, hey, last month we manufactured 20,000 5070 Ti's. But that's a blank statement. That's a blank. There's no statement there for that. So a lot of people really took this as corpo speak, and it kind of is. Literally, NVIDIA is about the truest definition of corpo as you can possibly get. But anyway, ASUS also responded to this, because don't forget, ASUS kind of had to, because they were the name that was thrown under the bus of, they're the ones that said, confirmed this. I don't want to say leaked this, but confirmed this. Here's the statement from ASUS's press room. It says, public statement to clarify recent reports regarding the ASUS GeForce RTX 5070 Ti and RTX 5060 Ti 16 gigabyte. So we'd like to clarify recent reports regarding the ASUS RTX 5070 Ti and RTX 5060 Ti 16 gigabyte. Certain media have received incomplete information from an ASUS PR representative regarding these products. The GeForce RTX 5070 Ti and 5060 Ti 16 gig have not been discontinued or designated as end of life. ASUS has no plan to stop selling these models. Current fluctuations in supply for both products are primarily due to memory supply constraints, which have temporarily affected production output and restocking cycles. As a result, availability may appear limited in certain markets, but this should not be interpreted as a production halt or product retirement. ASUS will continue to support the GeForce RTX 5070 Ti and 5060 Ti 16 gig and is working closely with partners to stabilize supply as conditions improve. That one line right there saying they have not discontinued or designated end of life. If NVIDIA had said that, I think that would have been good or better than what NVIDIA said. ASUS really went a step farther. But don't forget, ASUS's business for the GPU market, specifically NVIDIA cards, is built upon the NVIDIA business. So NVIDIA, like ASUS could say, it's not end of life, but NVIDIA could still potentially be end of lifing it, and then it will take time for that trickle-down economics to happen through the AIBs. And I'm not saying that's the case. I don't know that's the case. I truly have no idea. I'm not in those rooms. I'm not in that manufacturing facility. I don't know what's actually happening here. And there are powers that do. Theoretically, they're speaking right now, but there's trust problems. There's trust issues here. So with that said, it's kind of funny because the most recent but rumor since Hub's video went live, including my own and every other outlet that's talking about this, because there were rumors leading up to this prior to that. That's why the ASUS statement that Hub got seems so credible, is because there's been rumors leading up to that statement that said this is probably coming, like people are leaking 5070 Ti is being end of lifed. And then you hear direct from a board manufacturer, oh yeah, it's end of life. Then you're like, okay, must be true. And then, of course, you want to do diligence with your audience and get that information out there. So how did we potentially get to this? I kind of have this theory, and again, it's only a theory. I've run this by my reps, and the best you're going to get, because we still don't know exactly who said, why, what, where, when, all the W's plus the H on why this statement was made. But I suspect that what was interpreted by this rep was that the 5070 Ti Super and 5060, I don't know if there's going to be a 5060 Ti Super or not, but that those products were discontinued, because we know that. We know through the memory shortage right now, if you can't meet, if what they're saying is true, there's a big if, what they're saying is true and they can't keep up with current demand on those SKUs anyway, what good does adding more SKUs in that same product tier do for you? It would just be another phantom product that's there on paper, but not there on shelves, which is kind of what's happening with the 70 and 60 tiers right now, as it is. The only plausible theory I have is that this rep misconstrued information. Maybe they had an ear pod in one ear and were playing World of Warcraft on their screen while just sitting in one of these boring ass corpo meetings, heard 5070 Ti, missed the Super, discontinued, not happening, blah, 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 and took that as the current product is being end of lifed. Because it seems plausible that that NVIDIA would absolutely want to hoover up all the chips that they can for their AI product and then have just shavings of allocation go to the consumer product. That seems plausible. That's the NVIDIA we believe is operating today. That is fully the way I believe NVIDIA is operating today. I guarantee you right now, if the AI product was not being manufactured in the volumes that it is, 5070 Ti's would be exploding out the seams of every e-tailer and retailer. But we know that the chip manufacturing is what is causing this problem. And NVIDIA obviously has a huge hardware stake in the AI boom, and they're making billions of dollars hand over fist on this. Now we know that. So that's the only plausible thing I think could have potentially happened. And then this rep got the information wrong. I can tell you right now, ASUS is absolutely on a manhunt to figure out where, when, and how did this information get out there? Because as you can see, this was rolling a pebble down Mount Everest in terms of a snowball, right? But the thing is, if the state of affairs weren't as bad as they are right now, a lot of this wouldn't have been believable to begin with. But the problem is this all seems believable that this could absolutely happen. So there is that. But something else I want to mention is when I was speaking to NVIDIA, I said, you know, one of the reasons why this seems plausible is because of the whole no longer packaging of memory with the GPU package for the AIBs. And I was told, oh, about that. That's also not true. I don't know, again, where that rumor comes from or came from, and I can't vet the validity of the rumor or the validity of the rebuttal. So that's unfortunately where we are, but apparently that's not true. And I would like to get like an official, see, the problem is, and my response to that, I said, really? I said, I've reported on it. Gamers Nexus has talked about it. Linus has talked about it. Hardware Unboxed has talked about it. Tom's Hardware has talked about it. Like, all the big publications have talked about it. NVIDIA was quick to shut down this rumor, or at least try to, but they were dead silent about the memory packaging problem. The problem is NVIDIA has a habit of just don't say anything. Doesn't matter, whatever. We're the world's biggest tech company, doesn't matter, you know? And the problem is this is how you start to lose credibility with a segment of your buyer segment, which I'll now being a minority buyer segment, which is what we are. This is how these things gain credibility through silence, because stuff like that, you have a right to defend yourself. If someone says something untrue about me, and I'm quick to like, no, that's not true, and try and defend myself, people are like, shut up, don't worry about it, it just doesn't matter, just ignore it. No, there's some things you just don't ignore, especially when it's a huge credibility hit. And NVIDIA just has a history of just ignoring it. And ignoring it leaves nothing but interpretation. And that's how we got to where we are today. So that's the latest on this. Whether or not you believe it or not, sound off in the comments below. I personally don't believe the 5070 Ti is truly end of life, but I definitely know for a fact it is not being manufactured at volumes that it probably was even 6 months ago, right? I do think allocation has been diverted elsewhere at the NVIDIA level before it ever gets to the AIBs. So I think the AIBs are feeling the struggle and the stranglehold, just like everyone else is. But I still fully believe that NVIDIA is primarily in the AI business now, and is not interested in, building up the gamer consumer segment. And that's just because of action. That has nothing to do with the words people have said. It has everything to do with what they're doing. Remember, actions speak louder than words. We can go all day long with cliches, but that is the truth. Actions speak louder than words, and NVIDIA's actions have absolutely shown where their futures lie, and that doesn't feel like gamers, which is why shit like this gets traction. All right, sound off down below. I'm curious, you guys believe it? Do you guys think it's corpo speak? I think if they were gonna be as bold as to discontinue the product, they wouldn't be this quick to backtrack it, or even give the perception of backtracking it, especially if they communicated that with their AIBs. And that's not the kind of secret that you can keep. Like, that gets out. So I'm not so sure I believe this one. Doesn't matter though, it's not gonna change anything.